Hello and welcome back to Process of Elimination. Our detective has been labeled the incompetent detective, much to his dismay. We'll see what changes between now and the end of the demo. So far I'm liking the game. I don't know if I'll do a full playthrough of it, but I wanted to do this as a little one-off kind of thing, so... If I end up really liking it, I might do a full playthrough, but I'm already planning a playthrough of Danganronpa, so we'll see. But picking back up, a bright red carpet covers the floor, and landscape painting adorn the walls of the corridor. The detectives explain the situation as we walk down the passageway. The scent of the roses on display around us drifting in the air. This location, which you've been brought, is an island that doesn't appear on any map. The DAs use it as a base of operations for years. It has two buildings, Snarks, a research facility for investigation support and gear development, and Gormenghast, a manor for overnight stays. The original plan was for everyone to discuss the situation in the manor. We were to review the dioramas of various quartering Duke cases. That was the plan. Rowdy detective suddenly punches the wall beside her, causing the other nearby walls to tremble from the impact. When we got here, a bunch of detectives from HQ had been snuffed out by poison. All 22 members of the research facility, gone. All 22 of them? Every hair on my body stands on end at the unthinkable news. Even among history's most infamous mass murders, few had a death toll of more than 20. Killing 22 people at once is beyond all reason. The culprit piled their bodies at the facility's entrance as though were naught but rubbish. Such savagery was no less than inhuman. Seeing the heap of corpses would have killed your appetite big time, incompetent, and the poison gas filling the room would have killed you for real. Good thing I didn't go in there. Luckily you didn't go in there, huh? A heap of corpses, just imagine it makes me feel faint. And that's not even taking the death of gas into account. Maybe Senior Detective knew about the gruesome scene, so he sent me straight to the manor instead. That would also explain why he hid me in the forest and went off on his own. I need to find him as soon and thank him for keeping me safe. It was another quartering Duker attack, right? We're not sure yet. For how many deaths there were, the clues are awfully scarce. Quartering Duke cases always result in two concurrent victims. This crime would appear to have a different modus operandi. Heh, the quartering master did him in, no doubt. If I catch that guy skulking around the island, I'ma clean his clock. It's said that the quartering Duke has killed over 100 people, but even that was over the course of half a year. On the other hand, murdering 22 people at once, all of them first-rate detective, no less, could hardly be the work of an amateur. I get the impression that he commits grisly deeds for the thrill of it, but otherwise his identity is a complete mystery. So you're just exploring? We began our investigation at the research facility, but then the chief's D-pad received a message from a surviving Alliance member. Techie detective draws out his own D-pad and plays an audio file. That senior detective. Some attack. Search for altered. Hiding in Gormenghast. Chief, meet there. Help. The recording cuts off there. Although the sound was low and full of static, even I could grasp what it signified. That's Senior Detective's voice, isn't it? He's alive then. Thank goodness. Yes, I'm certain that's him. Making it through the situation unscathed, it's no wonder he's a legend among detectives. Is he really that incredible? You know the Dayless Night incident, right? It still shows up on the news. Not only did he solve it, he's also a founding member of the DA. The Dayless Night incident? Even school textbooks talk about that case, and you're saying he cracked it? I was a kid then, so I don't remember much, but it was the worst terror attack in national history, sparked by a new religious movement. From that event onward, criminal atrocities swept the nation, which is part of why the Detective Alliance was formed. Solving a case of that magnitude would absolutely qualify him as a legend. Originally, we'd split up from the other detectives and headed to the manor to reconvene with Senior. Soothly? It must be a villain most foul for even so Senior to be forced into hiding. We must hasten to aid his forthwith. We must hasten to his aid forthwith! Huh? You mean there are other detectives besides you guys? For sure, there's like, what, 6 more investigating the research facility? It's like a detective boat goes sailing there. LMAO. I don't quite get what she means by that, but I guess it has a lot of detectives. I'm still reeling from the heinous murders we have yet to unravel. But at least now there's a glimmer of hope. I believe we've searched every room, but there is no sign of Senior. Maybe the culprit arrived here before we did. Senior would have realized that and escaped. If the message was intercepted, the culprit could have easily gotten ahead of us. Oh yeah, I can see that happening. It took us like, what, 10 minutes to get here? But there's only one path from this facility here. It's surrounded by sheer cliffs. No one could escape without us noticing. The detectives process the situation with impressive speed. I'm barely keeping up as I struggle to understand what it all means. Downtown's casual chit-chat is about the only thing that makes sense to me. This room doesn't get any wireless internet either. Why bother having a phone then? Ugh, this is such a major bummer. Even if there were a router here, I doubt it would do you any good. Oh yeah? Why? Because the silence off the grid? Not exactly. I tried connecting to a wired network in the research facility, but I couldn't get it to work at all. I made another attempt here at the manor a moment ago, but that failed too. The Highlands communication antenna must be down. Huh. But our D-pads can still link up to each other, right? So what's the diff between that and our smartphones? Well, the D-pads have a unique communication system. As part of the R&D team, I must say it's truly amazing tech. Basically, it works by... Okay, we get it. So I can't even, like, chat with any of my followers while we're here. Could this be any lamer?
I prefer to see this as an opportunity for us fellow detectives to deepen our bonds of our camaraderie.
I like to imagine that the Armor and Downtown are talking and Techie is just right there, just with that eternal, like, he's completely stunned by the fact that he was cut off. That's it. You gotta be kidding me.
Kuda!
Rowdy Detective starts crawling on all fours like a dog at the entrance of the room. She presses her face to the carpet in a sharp expression, but then a sharp expression on her face. What's wrong, Rowdy?
Blood. I can smell it.
Huh? Silence fills the room. The others all turn to look at Rowdy. Nearly missed it all, thanks to the rosy smell of the red carpet. But the floor's got blood on it, see? From the entrance to them flowers.
It's a knife!
Reality detective approaches an empty vase and sticks her hand in it, pulling out a bloody knife. Bingo! Don't know what poor mug sauce this is, but I'll tell you one thing, some goon was on the loose in here. How did you even notice the smell? The blood is already dry. Been hunting with my old man since I was little. I've got the nose of a bloodhound, eyes of a hawk, ears of a rabbit, and a raw macho spirit. I'm not so convinced that helping on hunting trips would cause these kind of abilities, but it's astonishing nonetheless. Rowdy, that knife wasn't used in here, was it? Yep, nothing in this room but traces and stains. Guessing they only came to hide the knife. I can track the scent, but the hall is chock full of roses. It ain't gonna be easy with them smelling up the place. I figured as much, but that said... Techie, might you have an alternative method? Of course, I go by that alias for a reason after all. Take a detective proudly pulls out a cute little machine that resembles a puppy out from his pocket. This is my tracking forensic friend, Sniffy Whiffy! Oh, that is adorable name. The alias helped me develop him. He can tirelessly track down the scent he registers, and his prime directive is to save lives. Furthermore, he has a small rubber treads to cover tracks from terrain without disturbing the scene and can move up to 15 kilometers per hour. He's also equipped with a transmitter so you can monitor him from the D-pad. Plus, he uses the same lithium-ion batteries that the International spec. Yes, that's all very impressive. We'd love to hear more about it later, but for now, why don't we start tracking? Just like a nerd, get him talking and then he'll just keep going. Oh, right. Sorry, I get a little carried away when I talk about my inventions. Makes sense. Take a detective returns to reality, hanging his head in shame. Now, let's not waste any time. Use this tool. He's not a tool. He is my friend. Don't treat him like some piece of equipment. Workaholic bows several times in apology for misspeaking. True to his name, he's the very picture of a harried office worker. Take-it detectives may seem calm and collected, but careless remarks about his inventions are a clear sore spot of his. I better watch my words. Sorry everyone for blowing up like that. Let's go tracking that scent. Take a detective calms down, setting his dog-like tracking machine Sniffy Whiffy and leaves near the bloodstain. Sniffy Whiffy scoots across the floor just like a real dog. He circles around a couple times, then thumps into the room's door. He's on the hunt. Let's open the door and see where he goes. I open the door and Sniffy Whippy darts out the room, barreling down the hall towards the stairs. All I pick up his roses, but he must have zeroed in on the trail of blood. Huh? How about that? When I wasn't getting jack squat. Strictly speaking, it's not the scent, but rather the air particles that he tracks. Hence why he isn't thrown off by the other smells in the vicinity. So much for that whole nose of a bloodhound spiel. Can it? My nose is what got us this lead in the first place. True. Sniffy Whippy stops at a painting just before the stairs to the entrance. Sir Sniffy is halted. Could this be the site of the stabbing? No, 10 for brains. I don't see a bloodstain, do you? The knife must have been used somewhere else. Like behind the painting? Behind it? Whatever could you mean? Is there a world within the painting? To think that the stuff of children's fairy tale could actually exist! If you played Mario 64!
That was my favorite game!
Relax, Armor. The answer is clear if you think about it logistically. Workaholic touches the painting as he inspects the frame. He then gently taps the artwork before pressing his ear against it. Aha, no questioning about it. There's a hollow space behind the painting, which means that if I shift it like this... Still touching the painting, Workaholic Detective moves his hand. The entire wall around it slips back like a sliding door, revealing a hidden passage. Sniffy Wifty, who's been waiting in place, begins moving again, right down the newly discovered path. How did you figure that out? Trade secret. You pick up a lot when you've been on the job for as long as I have. Dang, Gramps. You got me rethinking my take on you. No cap. I might even I don't know, kinda sorta respect you now. I wish you wouldn't call me that. I'm still in my 20s, you know. Barely. But it still counts. Oh, okay. So he's 29. I'm 25, so I get this, man. I was gonna say, I expected him to be in his 20s. Workaholic Detective turns red in the face as Downtown Detective slaps him on the behind. That blade was used somewhere up ahead. As we know not what may occur, I shall stand in the vanguard. Wait up, bucko. It's wide enough for two, see? I'm taking the lead too, so keep your eyes peeled. Rowdy Detective tries to push forward. Stop by Tofu. Actually, would you mind guarding the entrance with Teki and Rowdy and downtown, Rowdy? I think my abilities could come in handy here. Your abilities? Armor and Doleful Detective are to spearhead our foray into the secret passage with me and Workaholic Detective following after. Rowdy, Downtown, and Teki would remain at the entrance, acting as lookouts in case the tunnel was a trap. As for why I'm being brought along, it's probably because I won't be able to escape in this tunnel. I'm struck by the fact that Workaholic, the most experienced one of the group, had definitely assumed a position behind me. These detectives don't miss a single beat. Alright, Arthur and I will lead the way. As he speaks, Doleful and Armored Detective enter the tunnel together. Workaholic and I continue right behind them. The four of us descend down a spiral staircase that winds its way underground. Whoa, dude. That looks awfully familiar. At the bottom of this gloom is a gloomy underground tunnel. We proceed to it using the light function on our D-pads to guide the way. The only sounds are our footsteps echoing in the tunnel, as well as Sniffy Whiffy's treads crawling across the floor ahead of us. The air is dusty and reeks of mold, making it hard to breathe. Clearly, this place is seldom used. My love of cleanliness aches to ventilate the place. Doleful Detective's eyes narrow as he travels the tunnel. His usual fearful countenance is tense, as he is as if he's an entirely different person. Impressive, is it not? Doleful's intense concentration, that is. Workaholic Detective whispers to me as if he's reading my mind. Ranked to number 14, he solved over 100 cases and survived just as many bloody encounters as a veteran detective. Or as us veteran detectives. Over 100 cases solved? That deal alone leaves me speechless. We can't be that far apart in age, and yet his track record is on a whole nother level. What sort of heroic life has this seemingly gentle boy led up to till now? What did Doleful mean when he said his abilities could come in handy here? You'll see soon enough. He possesses what we in the Alliance would call the makings of a great detective. Doleful detective stops in his tracks. Armor, stop!
What happened, Sir Doleful? Your leg is bleeding.
Armor shines his deep headlight on Doleful's detective's leg, revealing a trail of blood beneath his knees. Something reflects in the light just ahead of them. Huh? There's something at your feet. I guess it's that a trap to ward off intruders. Judging by the texture, it must be some kind of wire. Whoa. He's right. When I get close to the reflection, I see red dripping off an extremely fine wire. It was so razor thin and difficult to see that, were it not for the blood, I would have been nearly imperceptible, even in direct light. This is the wire Saul the detective agency is currently developing. Why would the Alliance make something like this? For cutting locks to enter sealed rooms, or as a means of escape when restrained. Word is that it requires specialty gloves to handle. Best to avoid touching it. Given its intended use, it's so sharp that with enough pressure, it could cut straight through human flesh. It's a good thing I noticed then. Yeah, it's a good thing you did. Workaholic produced medication and bandages from his pocket and began applying first aid to Doleful Detective's leg. This is rather nasty. This is a rather nasty cut, but you're lucky to get off this lightly. Anyone else could have been liable to lose a leg in your position. Situations like this are about the only time my special kills end up useful. Special skill? What do you mean by that? For some reason, Doleful Detective struggles to reply. Workaholic steps in to answer on his behalf. Doleful is a danger magnet with a knack for close calls. From traps to wanted criminals, to finding murder scenes and even evidence. His innate intuition and powers of insight are what allowed him to survive such less than fortunate circumstances. So that's how he has the makings of a great detective. In stories, detectives are always expected to survive, even when wrapped up in a personal case, and even when their life is on the line. And now I'm standing in front of a real-life detective who embodies that very trope! It's not that impressive. In fact, I'd just say I bring misfortune to everyone and everything around me. It's kind of a miserable experience. Doleful Detective expression flickers as he touches a bandage on his wrist. The countless traces of medical attention covering his body shows just how much suffering he's constantly endured. Still, it's made me more sensitive to threats than the average person. I can always sense when I'm in danger, so just think of me as your shield. I see the resolve within Doleful Detective's eyes as he speaks. He and I may look similar, I may even be the older one, but nothing in me competes with that look. We couldn't be further apart.
Sir Doleful, you needn't be so reserved.
Armor Detective abrupt steps forward. He then swings his arm, bringing it down to chop the wire before us. Armor Detective, that wire can cut steel. Just because you're wearing protective armor doesn't mean...
Fear not, the suit which I am clad in is a product of my family's long-held secrets. Behold the strongest armor known to man.
The wire parts with ease. Sure enough, Armor Detective doesn't have a single scratch on him. Both Doleful and Workaholic widen their eyes in incredulity.
No matter the trap, mine armor shall prevail. Set your minds at ease and allow me to take the lead.
But putting me in front will minimize the total risk for our team as a whole.
I can't stand idly whilst my companions are hurt. Despite my inadequacies, I hastened here to be as an aegis for each of you.
Armor Detective speaks with a calmness that eases Doleful Detective's taunt expression. Despite the latter's brave front, he might have been nearing his limits. Thank you, Armor. In that case, I'll stay back a bit and keep an eye out. Armor Detective takes the lead as Doleful acts as a lookout behind him. Armor, I can sense a thread right in front of me. About head height.
Another wire. Eh? Understood.
Without a second thought, Armor Detective swings his hand towards the area Doleful Detective indicated. Chop, chop, chop. Sometimes doleful warnings come too late, and Armor runs into a wire. But even then, it never leaves a mark. We continue safely through the darkness. Until... Based on the signal, the tracker has stopped 5 meters ahead. It would seem we'd arrived at the scene where the knife was used. We finally made it to the end of the tunnel with 0 injuries, save for Doleful Detective, of course. Sniffy Whiffy is parked in front of a steel door, which means the bloody knife we found earlier must have been used right behind it. I hate to ask, Armor, but would you mind taking point?
No need to apologize, sir, workaholic.
Sounds like an insult.
My armor exists for very moments I must forge such paths.
And yet, Armor Detective looks tense as he cautiously touches the doorknob. Goosebumps ripple across my body. Deep down, I get the overwhelming urge to scream, "Don't open it!" As if my mind somehow knows that what we're about to see is truly horrific. I have an extremely bad feeling about this.
I shall open the door on the count of 3. 1, 2...
The doorknob makes a clack as it turns. My heart rate leaps, but I can't bring myself to look away.
3!
A blinding light flashes as the door opens, forcing me to avert my eyes. On top of that, a metallic stench envelops me. The way it sticks to my throat makes me cough. However, none of the other detectives show even a hint of fear as they proceed beyond the door. I hurry to follow them, but at that moment... Doleful Detective's cry echoes out. Whoa. As I step into the room, the first thing I see on the ground is the ground dyed in crimson. The red spreads across so much of the floor that at first I mistake it for a carpet pattern. But there's so much that there's no way that's the case. Despite my hateful disbelief, the smell filling the air tells me that this is blood. With each breath, the metallic stench fills my lungs, my stomach, my whole body. And I'm assailed by an overwhelming urge to vomit. If I lose focus for even a moment, I know I'll wind up spilling my guts out. Upon closer inspection, I notice something floating in the ocean of gore. It's large and reminds me of a caterpillar. 4 other long, thin objects around it. In a way, they resemble a quartet of lifeboats, all rowing in different directions away from a sinking ship. But in truth, they're human limbs, scattered across the floor. But before us is a scene devoid of life. A man whose name I don't know gazes at me. His head half submerged in a sanguine sea. My eyes are transfixed as I stand there in a daze. There's a biting chill, as if the temperature has dropped by quite a few degrees. My hands and legs tremble, I can barely stand. Every ounce of strength leaves my body, which no longer feels like my own. I muster all my willpower I can, only to topple over on the spot. Is this all just a bad dream? First crime scene, huh? I know it's hard to take in, but try not to look away. Without any concern to spare from me, Workaholic walks towards the pool of blood. Doleful, Armor, head back up and fetch the other 3 detectives. After that, I'd like you to ask the chief to come to the manor. He sums up the heart of the matter in a low voice. It's a homicide. Someone has murdered senior detective. I figured that was the case. Surprised they didn't show his face. Regardless of how dispatched he remains while objectively stating facts, it doesn't change the reality we're facing. A middle-aged man, corpse-like, dismembered, his limbs strewn across the room we're standing in. For the first time in my life, I am confronted with a murder scene. Chapter 1: The Case of the Dismembered Detective. Really? It's still going? This is a demo, dude. I stand in the corner, my mind completely blank. This is the first time witnessing a murder scene in person. Psyche's death is seared in my mind, but this is different. Someone I know lies torn to pieces in a vivid sea of blood. Dead. I'm no great detective, and although I tried to steel myself, coming face to face with a scene like this has me too weak to stand. Even once I regained my footing, my legs still struggled to remain upright. The metallic stench of fresh blood is one I'll never be able to get used to. I breathe through my mouth as much as possible. If I had the choice, I'd sprint out of this room at this very second. Workaholic detective ignores me as he investigates the corpse with meticulous efficiency. He and the victim must have been well acquainted. His pained look when we found the body suggests that his mental burden is far greater than mine. Yet despite that, he shows no signs of weakness. How much experience solving homicides would it take to become a detective like him? I can't even fathom it the way I am now. The other detectives who had been summoned by Doleful Detective are unable to hide their shock at the sight. What? What's the big idea? I thought Pop's supposed to have made it. Did he get off while we were rushing over here? That's like so sad it's not even funny. But that doesn't make any sense. We arrived at the manor 20 minutes after Senior Detective's message. For someone to chop up a body to this extent, hide the weapon, and escape in that amount of time, it's scientifically impossible. This level of blood loss would preclude livor mortis, and rigor mortis hasn't even set in yet. I may be stating the obvious, since he called us just prior, but the state of coagulation indicates that he was killed less than half a day ago. Let's reestablish the order of events. Senior contacted us at 12:40. We split up into teams and headed to Gormenghast from Snarks. Since we arrived at 1300, we can safely assume the crime occurred in the 20 minutes it took to travel to the facility to the manor. Question, teacher. Isn't there a chance that the criminal could have, booked it before we left Snarks? Not at all. We headed to Gormenghast as soon as Senior contacted us. Had the killer tried to escape, we surely would have seen them en route. Thus the killer would have been within the manor when we arrived. I can hoof it for days, but it'd still take me 10 minutes to run down the hill to the facility. Your theory checks out. So the key question is this. Is the perpetrator still inside? Let's consider the time frame for when they could have made their escape. We found incompetent in the entrance hall and spoke for a time, then made our way upstairs 15 minutes later, around 13:15. After that, thanks to Rowdy and Techie, we discovered the hidden passage at 1334. You can see the entire entrance hall from the corridor behind the passage, so escaping a detective would have been a challenge. If the killer was in the manor, there's only one chance to escape would be the 20 minutes we spent investigating the second floor. Ergo, it is highly probable that they are in fact still within the manor. Wouldn't 20 minutes be more than enough time to slip away? You could make it outside easily enough, but the real problem comes after the fact. There's only one path from here to Snarks, and it's no place to hide. The jig would be up if you're seen from a window. It simply isn't realistic. Exactly. I actually made a point of checking out the windows, but I didn't see anything or anyone suspicious. Hold up. no one's at the entrance hall right now. You know, like, kind of sketched. Like, they could totally escape whenever. Oh, that's perfectly alright. The chief is headed over from Snarks as we speak. If the killer tries to flee now, they're certain to get caught before they make it down the mountain path. Which means the Foul Slayer does indeed still lurk within these walls? Alright! In that case, let's head back up on the double. It's time for a good old-fashioned manor mouse hunt. Just a moment. There's a more viable method than hiding out in the manor for all this time. Workaholic points directly at me, drawing the focus of the other detectives. Incompetent. If you're the killer, then there is no issue regarding the timing. It would all be entirely feasible. Huh? My voice cracks as I'm caught completely off guard. Me? The killer? How does that even make sense? How does that make any sense? It's simple. All you need to do is hack up Senior, then lie at the entrance hall faking unconsciousness, easily done in 20 minutes. If the culprit was unable to escape the manor, we can only assume that said culprit is you. What are you saying? There's no way I could have chopped someone apart in 20 minutes. Not to mention all the wires that were set up along the underground passage. How would I have gotten past those? I raised my voice in protest without thinking. Even with Arner and Dolful's help, getting through the passage took 5 minutes. It's hard to imagine anyone like me with no special traits making it through so quickly. There's the real conundrum. I figured you used some sort of trick at any rate. I doubt it's sincerely impossible. What do you need? Listen closely. Can you hear the voices above us? He's right. If I strain my ears, I can pick up sounds coming down from the ceiling. Where are they coming from, though? We should be the only people inside the manor right now. In terms of layout, our current location is directly beneath the entrance hall. I presume that what we're hearing is the chief arriving at the manor. Now, this basement is likely a hiding spot. There may be an extra space between the floorboards so the noise can drift in from above. Now that he mentions it, my own eyes spot the gaps in the ceiling where light is filtering through. As Workaholic Detective said, it must be coming from the entrance hall above us. Regardless, the rooms are vertically adjoined. One could greatly reduce the time required to move between them by means of simple gimmick. You could say tamper with the floor of the entrance hall, creating a gap wide enough for a person to slip through the basement ceiling. Workaholic's relentless reasoning leaves me overwhelmed. Even if there is a gap, there's no way someone my size could fit through it. Still, he's right about one thing. The entrance hall and the basement are awfully close together. How can I possibly clear my name now that we know it's possible to move between them? Aren't you jumping to some major conclusions here? It's not like you could prove there isn't a hole connecting the ceiling to the entrance. Your whole probatio diabolica, but it's just bullying him into a corner. Like, talk about a total mood killer. Lady Downtown has the right of it. So long as any such gimmick remains hidden, your accusation is out of the question. But hence, my plasma knuckles capable of winning any bout could make such a hole, but still. A punched out hole wouldn't close back up anyway. First things first, is it even possible to dismember an adult to this extent within 20 minutes? Even if the killer himself is male, they would need an extremely deft hand at amputation to pull off something so difficult. Not likely you need to skin him and make him bleed, and any hunter could do it. Heck, it would have been a snap if I was the crook. So it's safe to assume that you're the culprit then. I just bet I could. There's no time to deal with all that spurting blood anyhow. Actually, I'd say there was. Workaholic probably shares my thoughts on that. So you notice as well, it's true. One could dismember a body in a short span of time, if they used the wires we encountered. Ah, as he speaks, Workaholic holds up a blood-drenched wire. Unpleasant as it is, I'm reminded of how easily Dolfo's detective leg was cut. You mean someone could have used this wire in Senior Detective? Yes, in fact, it's possible that Senior Detective was already wrapped up in these wires when he got in contact with us. He may have done so under duress, after which the wires were pulled, slicing him into pieces. All that remains is for the culprit to escape. I chanced on one of those wires again when I went to get the others. My foot happened to slip on it since it was coated in blood. Based on the amount of blood, it's clearly not the same wire you first encountered. The killer must have anticipated us getting past the wires in the passage and discarded it on the floor there. Or perhaps the killer himself set the traps in order to hide the murder weapon. Either way, we have no other recourse but to suspect incompetent for now. Speak up if you have any objections. I didn't do it! I shout on impulse. Regret fills me almost immediately. I'd say the same thing if I was guilty, as anyone in my shoes. I refuse to believe Incontinent did it, but that's all the more reason for us to find out what really happened. Agreed. I don't want to accept that a fellow DA member could do such a thing, but as a detective, pursuing the truth is paramount. Workaholic fixes me with a steely look. I want to speak up, but I don't know what to say. I've reached my limits just processing all of these theories. There's no room for me to make my own deductions. Hold up, ain't the idea of incompetent being the perp a bit too, I don't know, far-fetched? You ask me, we got the wrong guy here. Do you have any evidence to support this? I'd like to know why you don't suspect incompetent. Call it a gut feeling. I'm usually dead on the money with these sort of things. That's downright scientifically impossible. We need to base our investigation on solid proof and logic. Is this going to be a doggone Robin situation where one of them actually did kill him? I hope not. Back up, Poindexter. You're looking for a fight? Okay, time out. No more fighting, guys. You're like seriously harshing my vibe. But that little punk was the one who... Look, it's not like Techie said he full-on suspects incompetent or whatever. Am I right? Precisely. I simply believe it's too early to confirm or deny that hypothesis. We can't rule out either conclusion yet. The culprit could have fled, but they could also be still be inside the building. Oh, sorry about that. Might have gotten ahead of myself in there. Again. Workaholic Detective claps his hands, interrupting the discussion. It appears we have a number of opinions. I'm going to the entrance hall to meet the chief. Let's investigate this individually after that. Halt, Sir Workaholic. We have many a detective assembled here already. Ought we not to join forces and confront this case together? Perhaps, but even in this short amount of time, our conflicting opinions have already come to light. Each of us seeks to tackle this case through a starkly different approach. Collaborating on this, in these conditions would only work against us. I concur. I'll proceed with my investigation in my own way, calmly and scientifically. What's with that glare? You got a bone to pick with me or something? I already apologize. At the end of the day, I'm human. I'm gonna get where I need to get by following my heart. That alone ought to disqualify you from this line of work. Like heck! It's all over once a detective forgets what it means to be human. Oh my gosh, just cool it already. I literally just asked you not to fly off the handle. Downtown detective does her best to intervene as Rowdy shouts at Techie. Doleful stands behind the three of them, flustered and directionless, as Armor and Workaholic continue their heated debate. It doesn't seem like the investigation is going to start anytime soon. Just like Workaholic Detective said, everyone's playing this by their own rules, and so no one is taking the lead. Everyone? I want to suggest we all work together, but the words die in my throat. There's no way I could be so bold when I'm the prime suspect. I know that, and yet I feel like I need to say something. My fist clenches. Unlike me, each one of the detectives here has their own talents and strengths. And it's my incompetence that really drives home how amazing they are. That's exactly why I need to speak up now. Now's not the time for arguing, wouldn't you say? I chime in, but my voice comes out so softly that no one hears me. Together, these detectives could solve any case, and yet here they are arguing. It angers me far more than being a suspect. I failed to save someone again, even though Senior Detective was so close by. What's the point of being a detective if all I can do is sit around and watch these things happen? My self-loathing mounts as I listen to them bicker against each other. My position in the situation doesn't matter. What happens to me isn't as important as getting these detectives to work as a team. Everyone, please, listen! The other detectives turn to face me. Naturally, they all look rather dubious. I falter for a moment, but desperately push on. I know a lot of you suspect me. That's fine. There's a lot to suspect. And I understand that. But can't you at least try to cooperate? Cooperate? That's a tall order. My personal modes of investigation are hardly compatible. I'm always down for a collab, but you're kind of asking for the impossible right now. I mean, we can't even agree on whether or not you're the prime suspect. That's why I want everyone to agree on what direction to take. What direction to take? That's right. Although I'm too tense to make a proper response, I force my voice out, trying to be as bold as I give the detectives my suggestion. Please, proceed with your investigation under the assumption that I did it. If you start there, you'll be less likely to have any more arguments like this one, right? The detectives fall silent. I would too. Maybe telling them to suspect me was too brazen after all. Is your head screwed on wrong or something? After all the effort we spent defending you, you got the guts to ask to be the suspect? Have you lost your marbles? I beseech you not to give up, sir incompetent. What has become of your resolve? I'm not giving up. It's not that as if I want to be the main suspect here. But it'd be even worse if the investigation stalled out because of me. I'm staking my safety on your deductive reasoning. I raise my voice with all my strength, my trembling hands balled into fists. I trust that all of you... in my own incompetence. If you all work together, I know the truth will come out. I'm sure you'll prove I didn't do it. The detectives silently take in my words. Not one of them speaks up. They all simply stare at me, incredulous. I guess my suggestion was overstepping my bounds. I've only made them all even more distrustful to me. But I don't regret it. I'd much rather have these outstanding detectives suspect me than continue arguing in vain. So you insist that because we're on the case, we end up proving you aren't the culprit? Such words make one feel blessed to be a detective. Isn't that right, ladies and gentlemen? I hear a cold, beautiful voice behind me. My breath catches as I turn around. Just how should I respond when a suspect gives a statement like that? Continue to argue, never to find any common ground, or take action swiftly and promptly. I eagerly await your answer. Her hair is white as snow, her gleaming eyes purple like hydrangeas. Her skin smooth, with features like a porcelain doll. At our back stands a far from ordinary girl. The others are visibly thrown off by her arrival. It's clear that she stands out, even among these prominent detectives. Chief, what are you doing here? I specified that I would meet with you at the entrance when you arrived. Do you truly believe I would wait idly by when my dear friend, senior detective, has been murdered? Out of the question. I left our colleagues to themselves and went ahead on my own. The girl workaholic called Chief speaks with a hint of timidity. Footsteps sound out from the passageway. Evidently, the other detectives followed her lead heading to this room. We never told you about this basement, did we? We figured it'd be better that way, so no one would get hurt inside the tunnel. I noticed an echo beneath my feet upon entering, so I placed my ear to the floor, and what should I hear but your voices? From there, I deduced the general layout and discovered the secret path that had been left open. Hardly a mystery, really. The chief shares her amazing feats as though they were simply a matter of course. We worked so hard to find this underground room, and yet she found it merely by touching the floor. No wonder the other looked shocked. Huh? I startle as the girl gives me a smile. Compared to how she treats the others, her gaze on me feels more personal. No, I'm probably mistaken. I must be. So, you're the newcomer I've been hearing about. I am Ideal Detective. I lead the team working to stop the quartering Duke. Your spirited appeal earlier was admirable. I'm expecting much from you, so keep at it, and never hesitate to share your thoughts. I apologize for losing my composure just now. Once the other detectives arrive, I'll brief you all on the situation and give my impressions. Thank you, Workaholic. That would be much appreciated. First, allow me to clear up a certain misconception you seem to be laboring under. Each and every member of the Quartering Duke investigation is a suspect. You, I, or any of us have the means to carry out this murder. Of course. What? Commotion erupts as the detectives speak over each other, which of course is unsurprising. Other than me, nobody else was in the manor at the time the senior detective died. On top of that, this murder required enough time for a full dismemberment. In what possible way could he have been killed? Ideal Detective has only just arrived here, but her hydrangea-like eyes glimmer like gems, as if they picked up on something. If the outline of the case is clear, all that remains is for us to pool our efforts and ascertain the reality of the situation. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe it's time to make our reprisal. Soon enough, the other detectives join us at the scene. Geez, Senior. To think your time would come so soon. Just how many trials does the Lord expect us to endure? I vow that I, Mystic Detective, shall send the culprit straight to hell. Mark my words, Quartering Duke. The flames burn hot below. But you weren't even that close to Senior Detective, the girl said, coldly stating the facts. You mustn't mock our bond, Buki. What the heck is Buki? Members of the DA are spiritually bond, soulmates. Bookworm. Oh, Bookie. Repulsive spiritual intimacy aside, I concur. The Quartering Duke must pay, the girl said, fist shaking at the thought of her adversary. A middle-aged man in an anachronistic Western garments and a black-haired girl clutching a hardbook cover approach the body, chattering. The man has the mane of a seasoned veteran. The girl, on the other hand, looks around 10, yet doesn't flinch at the sight of a corpse. Both of them must be experienced detectives. I, Posh Detective, ranked 5 in the DA, have already arrived at the crux of this mystery. The woman, dressed so elegantly that she looks out of place, jabs a finger at me. Our culprit is the commoner found unconscious, incompetent detective. The hastily hidden knife on the second floor proves he was unable to escape. Oh dear me, there I go again, demonstrating my incredible acumen. Perhaps it's time I took the reins as chief instead. Now, hold on a moment. Didn't I deal with check that theory just now? I beg your pardon, her theory is the one that's under hogwash. I'm sure. Isn't that right, gourmet detective? The woman called Posh speaks to the woman in a motorcycle suit who smiles as if she's enjoying herself. Oh, so you're Posh, you're a gourmet. Or Posh. Gourmet. Upon arriving, he decided to abstain, stating that this case didn't interest him. I imagine you'll find him napping in the first floor of the room. Napping? Even though the senior detective, a legend in our field, has been killed? Why? I never. Just what is that man thinking? Renegade's unconforming nature is a strong suit. I'm sure he'll put his talents to use later on. Let's leave him be for now. Lenient leadership like this is why high-ranking agents defy your orders. Classified detective and detective gentleman didn't even deign to show up. On the honor of the Pinkerton name, I swear that I will wrest the title of chief from you. Ideal Chief doesn't flinch and merely smiles at Posh Detective's belligerence. Thank you, Posh. Zealous subordinates such as yourself allow me to plunge into my work without fear, despite the risk. Should the enemy ever succeed in removing me from the front lines, I entrust the Detective Alliance to you. Oh, thank you not to speak of such ominous things. Your achievements far surpass mine. Nothing of this sort could ever happen. I shall supplant your position by my own merits. Be sure of it, my destined rival. Workaholic Detective explains the situation to those arrived at the facility. Once he finished, Ideal Detective addresses us. As you can see, Senior Detective, believed to be the last surviving member from the Detective Alliance headquarters, has been murdered. Which means, in all likelihood, that this perpetrator is part of the DA as well. Tensions rise across the room. Some detectives look at each other, while others turn their gazes at me. It doesn't seem like they're going to stop suspecting me anytime soon. That common pleb simply must be the killer. My high-born brain cells reassure me so. I agree. Rationally speaking, no one but incompetent could be the culprit. His story is dubious from A to Z. Though you two are common birth, your words ring true. I grant you leave to sing my praises, Workaholic Detective, loud and clear. I wasn't actually praising you. Let's begin by clearing up the most fundamental misapprehension. Incompetent detective is no intruder. I personally invited him to our meeting as a formal member. You personally invited him? But why? Workaholic addresses the elephant in the room. Even I'm hearing this for the first time. I have no idea what she intends for me. As if sensing my confusion, Ideal Detective's eyes meet my own. Those hydrangea-hued irises implore me to trust her. It's simple, really. I wish to have the person I trust the most at my side. Yep. He may not remember, but he once saved my life. I consider his abilities to be no less than extraordinary. I requested that Senior Detective invite him to the island, but I did anticipate his methods would involve kidnapping and confinement. Workaholic Detective's mouth hangs open as Ideal Detective casually explains the unexpected. Which makes sense. This is an extreme mixture of business and private affairs. I can tell he's in no state to begin questioning him. Alright, we're going to save here, and we'll pick this up next time on Process of Elimination. Peace.